No, this podcast is not for kids. It's a podcast where four friends get together and try to amaze each other with facts about the world and how we learn things about the world enough to make each other say, "Holy fucking science!" Sam, you really didn't even go for it.
Sorry. I've had a long day.
Same, but I got my energy up for this.
Right.
I'm ready.
I should have eaten some cheese like you.
Yeah, that was some good, There's some in the fridge upstairs, but you can't go anywhere now. We're recording. Today we have joining us Ceri Riley. Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. It's good. Should I introduce myself and what I do?
Yeah, I mean.
Or something. I do SciShow things. I write and edit scripts. And now I'm saying words instead of writing them.
Good.
Yeah.
She brought a lot. She wrote a lot down on her
write,
notes.
yeah,
I just have one thing, which just this is all I got. I'm Hank. I make SciShow, or I don't really. I just created it, and then everybody else does all the work now. It's awesome. Also, Sam.
I associate produce SciShow kids and make regular SciShow too.
And you associate with things as well.
I associate with a puppet and Jesse.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
And hermit crabs. And we've also got
I'm
Caitlin.
Caitlin Hofmeister, and I produce SciShow and SciShow Kids, and sometimes I'm on SciShow Space and Holy Fucking Science.
And can you tell us what our topic is for the day?
Oh, and our topic today is inspired by a SciShow episode about Fritz Haber, and it's about shitty people doing good science.
Oh man, I feel like my person. I'm gonna cause a ruckus.
Yeah, and
I'm gonna cause a ruckus today.
You have to prove. So I find a lot of shitty people doing science, but not good
Quote
science.
science, yeah.
And then, so it's like you kind of have to prove that they did something shitty. They don't have to be entirely shitty because nobody is.
Oh, that's nice of you to say.
And talk about.
So you're gonna say nice things about Hitler
science.
now? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Guys, Nazi scientists sound like we didn't do evil
Well,
people.
Fritz Haber he wasn't a Nazi
I'm not
scientist.
talking about Fritz Haber though, but that was the inspiration for the episode.
Right,
so
right.
you should watch the Fritz Haber episode on SciShow.
I mean, that was my first thought when you told me the topic. I was like, well, I could just do Fritz Haber because that one's amazes me.
Yeah.
But
Bad guy.
I decided to go a different direction.
Yeah.
In a much more controversial direction. But you'll have to wait and see what I brought.
Yeah. How should we go about this?
So whoever ate cheese least recently.
I ate cheese midday. I had the cheese snack from the fridge midday. Probably.
I had the cheese snack from the fridge just now.
Yeah.
I had cheese at lunch at like 12:30.
Oh, I don't know when I ate my cheese. The day is a blur.
Wait, whoever had cheese most long ago?
Yeah.
Probably me. I had it for breakfast.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Apparently in this crowd anyway.
We all like.
It was ages ago.
When did you have your cheese piece?
I don't know. The day is a blur. Probably right before 1. I met with Alyssa at 1, so I probably grabbed cheese to go in.
Okay.
Sam, you go first because you have the oldest cheese inside of you.
Sure, I forgot about some cheese I ate, but okay.
I also I beat all of you 2 times. I also had cheese again more recently than any of you because I had a sandwich that had cheese on it at 3.
Well, you're a cheese-eating man. You knew that you were going to win, so that's why you picked it.
Oh, yes, correct.
Because you just ate
Also,
cheese.
cheese is funny. I don't know why.
We all eat cheese today, though. That is...
It's a triumph of the dairy industry. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Well, anyway, my person's name is Dr. William Beaumont.
I don't know this guy.
He was a military doctor
in the U.S.
In 1822, at least, he was a military doctor in the U.S. in Michigan, posted in Michigan, and somebody was brought to him, a guy named Alexis St. Martin, who was a fur trader who had been shot in the gut.
I know this story.
Yeah, this is a
so
pretty common story, but it's really
Yeah.
weird and kind of sad and a little bit like a love story or something. So he got shot in the gut, and
I didn't know
he
the
was
love
dying.
story.
While he was fur trapping?
It was an accident.
Okay.
Somebody was on a boat and his gun fired into Alexis's gut and blew him open. So he went to the doctor, and the doctor, Dr. Beaumont, fixed him up, kind of, because when he healed, his stomach lining and his flesh on the outside of his body healed together. So it made a hole that led right into his stomach. And so Dr. Beaumont...
This is something that they do intentionally now. Sometimes when they want to create like a... They do it to cows so that they can do research to cows, but also when they're doing it with your intestines to create a thing so that if you can't go poop out your butt anymore, you can go poop out your front.
Nice. Instead of having to come out the other end.
So I guess...
Right. Yeah, well, because you still need to poop.
Yeah, but
because you don't want it to come out the front, which is apparently a thing. According to Dr. Aaron Carroll, that is possible, and I'm really uncomfortable about it. We should do a SciShow on fecal vomiting.
I went out, we can cut this, Lou, but I went out to dinner with Allison and her mom.
Oh, don't cut this.
And Allison's mom, I was telling her about it, and she was like, oh, yeah. And we just talked about it all through dinner. And I
was she a doctor or something?
No, she just had heard like a podcast about it or something and knew all about it, and it was amazing. I was like, you are awesome.
Yeah, she's yep. Anyway, this is something I know about because it's possible that I may someday have to have my colon removed, and then that might happen to me.
Oh.
Or I will poop up my front.
Okay.
Fingers crossed, everybody.
Do a live stream about it.
Yeah.
Oh, no, yeah, do it on camera. Like Katie Couric got her.
Yeah.
So what did she get?
Sam just lifted 2 fingers up. Like
Of Katie Couric.
Did she have like a...
Yeah, she had a colonoscopy.
That's what it was. I can't remember the word. They do that for that.
This is when you're getting like a gynecology exam. Sometimes they just like feel around in your...
Yeah, they do that. They do that with the butt too sometimes.
Oh, okay.
Prostate exams.
Okay. Yeah, accurate finger usage, Sam. Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, sorry, Katie. So anyway. So he had a hole in his stomach. Let me read my notes again.
I did distract you. I'm sorry.
Yes. He had a hole in his stomach, and Dr. Beaumont was like, that's pretty cool, I guess. So then he wrote up a contract. He, I think, convinced this guy basically that he couldn't be a fur trapper anymore. So he wrote up a contract that was like, you're going to be my manservant because you can't have any other job. So you have to come be my manservant. Yeah, because your guts are sloshing around. So you should come be my manservant. And he was like, okay. So he worked as a manservant for him for a while. And eventually, the Dr. Beaumont convinced Alexis that he should let him tie food up on a string and dip it into his tummy hole and pull it out every hour and see what was up.
That's pretty organized. Like he had a
chart. There's definitely science happening.
It was very. He did so many. I listened to a podcast about it right before this, and he did like every kind of food you could imagine, and he dipped it in for like 3 hours. He would dip it in at like regular intervals and study it. So that doesn't sound that
cheese,
bad.
Though?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure he did cheese.
Good.
So that doesn't sound that awful, except for that while he was doing this to him, he was really actually making him be his manservant. So he was making him chop wood for him and carry like his luggage around.
Well, making it. Was he paying him?
Well, sure, but he had a hole in his stomach. And he couldn't be a mountain man anymore, so he made him be like, he had a hole in his stomach. So he shouldn't have had to do it.
I heard that there's kind of a little bit of debate over whether the hole was even definitely going to happen on its own, and then Dr. Beaumont kind of maybe kept it open.
I guess that's kind of what I thought, is that he did it on purpose to keep researching
it. would take a long time to heal.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like that you'd think that I kind of imagined that he like sewed it open so that it healed, so he could be like...
Maybe he was a bad doctor.
Yeah,
we did learn a bunch about how digestion works.
Yes, that's what, yeah. So he did the dipping with the string thing. He made him work for him. And the whole time he was writing in his diary that it was like a charity case for this guy, and he couldn't do anything else, and that he was a commoner, so he was doing the things befitting a commoner to do. So he was like really helping this dude out, Dr. Beauregard was. Dr. Beaumont was. So eventually, Alexis had enough of it and left. And some people say that he escaped and ran away, but that's not, I can't really find anything that corroborates that he escaped and ran away. But he went to Canada and got married and had kids. And in the meantime, the doctor had taken samples of the stomach acid and was still doing the research. And that's when he started to find out a lot of stuff about stomach acid. He like basically discovered that it existed because he was looking inside of his belly one time and he saw it secrete out of the side and he licked it. And
what did it taste like?
Oh, wow. I love how science used to get done. People were just like, what does it taste like? I mean, that's a data point. So let's just eat it.
So he saved a bunch of jars of it. And that was like, I guess that was what convinced people that it wasn't just like the magic of the human body that was turning your food into energy, but it was chemicals, because he could replicate it outside of the body. So that proved a bunch of stuff about how people weren't just like magic. They had something going on inside of them. And then somehow Alexis ended up back with Dr. Beaumont. And some people say that he got kidnapped from Canada and brought back. But I don't think that's true. It said that on Wikipedia, but I couldn't find anything else to corroborate that. But really, I think what I heard also was that Dr. Beaumont got famous for writing the book about the stomach acid, and then just kind of like tempted Alexis back down with money. So then they toured around the world, and people were probably like putting their fingers inside his stomach hole and stuff.
Licking his stomach acid.
Licking the stomach acid. And he was like a human curiosity. And they were like the toast of the town, and they were touring the country, giving talks and stuff. And then eventually, Dr. Beaumont died. And then years later, when Alexis died, in his will, he said he wanted to be left out in the sun for a couple days so he'd rot, and then buried somewhere secret so that nobody could ever dig him up and do more experiments on him, because he didn't want to be a human experiment anymore. Yeah,
that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, and at the end, so Alexis left again, and after he left Dr. Beaumont the last time, Dr. Beaumont spent the rest of his life writing letters to him, trying to get him to come back and be his human test subject again.
So a little bit of a love story.
Well, it's just, he was so weird that these two men spent their whole lives together, basically, for hours on end, having food dipped into him. And it's like very intimate. And
you should write some fanfic.
Yeah.
Take it to the next level.
I should probably, huh?
Oh, did they leave him out when he died? Did they leave him out to?
His family left him out, and they buried him somewhere secret.
Nice.
And then one more weird thing. They named a military hospital after Dr. Beaumont, and they named the kitchen after Alexis. Which is so rude, right?
So rude. Yeah.
You're only good for your stomach.
Yeah, just the commoner.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just
all food tummy.
Well, thank you for your contributions, Alexis.
Yeah. Alexis, what's your last name? St. Martin. You bold Canadian man.
Yeah, bold Canadian man with a hole in his stomach. Oh, I want to know the whole story. But
I don't think there's only Dr. Beaumont's journals, I think, are left over.
And that's not going to be a credible source.
No, because he was
not going to tell you anything about their torrid love affair.
Yeah.
No, definitely
He's
not.
like drawing hard, but the cover is like same. What's his name?
Alexis St. Martin.
With A and
Beaumont St. Martin.
Yeah.
William St. Martin. That would be his
The
name.
love letters in his stomach hole.
Can you read through your stomach acid? Gotta find out for science.
Yes.
Stuffing love letters in your stomach.
Just left you a little thing in there.
You wake up in the morning.
Fortune cookies were invented.
Instead of a locket, I left a picture of myself in your stomach hole, so you'll always remember me.
It'll just dissolve when you go to Canada, hiding from me. Ay, ay, ay. I am uncomfortable. I'm glad I have the proper number of holes.
Yeah, man, me too.
I just got the number I was made for.
You don't want a mad scientist dipping stuff into you.
Yeah.
One of my theories, I don't know if I've ever mentioned it to any of you, of biological complexity is that as, like, you can sort of just count the number of holes any organism has, and that tells you, like, sort of on the level of how complicated they are. So jellyfish has one hole, and then like a worm has two holes. But like a person got like ear holes and nose holes and mouth holes and like pee holes and butt holes and eye holes if you count eye holes. So many holes.
Dual nose.
And ladies have one more hole than dudes do. So it holds. More complex.
I think you're right. I think it's a scientific law now.
Do ladies have one more or do they have three more?
Whoa, I'm confused.
What's the third?
Like lactation.
Oh.
Like it's
Well, there's a bunch, you could call that. Well, I mean, at that point, you
Like,
feel
how
like
do you-
every pore could be a hole.
Oh, okay.
Sort of understanding not that much about how lactation works.
Next on Holy Fucking Science.
Oh, yeah.
I
We
do
could
know
try
a
to guess
lactation
how.
specialist. We should bring her in and be like, what is it?
Like platypuses, like the first lactators, they just sweat out milk.
That's what I was like,
Yeah.
I'm like, so the pores. But like the lactation pores have to be different than, like we don't sweat out
milk. No, thank goodness. That would be a chore. I'm sorry. I have to take a bath again every minute forever.
But our ideas of how people smelled would change, I think. Like rotten milk would be just how people smelled. So it wouldn't really matter.
Yeah.
Ceri,
not happy about that. I mean, I got a baby now, and sometimes he spits up his milk, and then it gets stuck in his neck folds. and so sometimes he does smell a little bit. I'm like, oh no, time for a bath. I bathe my child regularly. I feel like CPS is coming for me.
But Sam and I were talking about this recently. Babies don't have necks until a certain point.
Oh no, he has no neck. I mean, it's funny. Like when I can see it, I'm like, oh, look at that neck. But most of the time, it's just like his head is like inside of his chest.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm trying to wash it. He's like,
Isn't that like they have circular breathing because of that too?
Yeah.
Like
they can breathe while they're breastfeeding.
Yeah.
Then the tube pokes out a little bit more and their neck goes boop.
Yep.
And then they look like people. They're not like weirdos.
And that's when they can't circular breathe anymore, is when they have necks?
I think it spaces out, something to do with their larynx and something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember exactly.
I did an episode about it. It causes them to be able to swallow things correctly.
Swallow and breathe at the same time.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there's some sort of flaps of skin in there that get more separated.
Right.
When they're...
I just can't remember why that's helpful for grown-ups to have that.
To not be able to do it?
Oh. Yeah. There was a reason in my episode, I just can't remember. It's a good show.
Go watch SciShow. We forget all the things that we do. Who's next?
I want to talk about Vladimir Demikov, I think is how you say his name.
Sure. I'm sure that's precisely how he would have said it.
If I just bust out a Russian accent, then I feel like that would be offensive.
I know. I always whenever I hit a French name, I'm like, should I say that with a French accent? Because then I feel like I'm making fun of French people.
Yeah.
But that's how they say it.
Yeah.
And it's not like I call a bidet a bidet.
Right. Yeah. And some words are difficult to say in the wrong accent.
That's right.
But Dr. Demikov coined the word transplantology. And I first want to tell you about lots of good things.
Okay.
So,
because I'm pretty sure I know where this is going.
Yeah, I tweeted earlier that I almost passed out while I was
Did you see some upsetting pictures?
Yeah. So organ transplantation is a good thing.
Yes.
So it saved lots of lives, and Vladimir Demikov wrote the first monograph of organ transplants, which was his thesis. And for a long time, it was the only publication about transplanting organs. And so lots of people used it to further research into transplanting organs or tissues. And so Christian Barnard, who performed the first heart transplant in 1967, which failed, but was the first heart transplant from a person to another person, considered Demikov a teacher, and he built the first artificial heart, and had performed the first heart-lung transplant, the first lung transplant, the first liver transplant, the first different kinds of heart transplants that I don't totally understand what the difference is, and the first head transplant. So...
Of a human?
No. So Vladimir Demikov researched a lot and got a lot of things done. But the reason I think he's a mad, evil scientist is because he performed on dogs. And so he would take... So his friend, Sergei Brukhanenko, who Ceri knows about,
my backup.
Developed the autojector, which was a heart-lung machine that could keep a decapitated dog head in a semi-conscious state. So it could react to stimuli, not be excited, but it would if you blew in its face, it would react, or eye drops. This was in the I think the heart-lung machine autojector thing was created in the late 40s, but a lot of the experiments were in the 50s and 60s.
Okay, so this is relatively
Do
recent.
you know
There's
specifically?
video. There's video.
There's video that I did not watch.
I've seen it.
I was too scared.
1936
1936 was the autojector thing. And then, I think a lot of the experiments on dogs were late 40s into the 50s.
He fed the dog heads cheese, and it would just go through their mouth and then pop out the neck.
No.
Yeah.
He didn't give him a stomach?
No, he decapitated
them. Oh my God, I'm so glad you read about this too. Yeah. So he would take the smaller dog heads, and sometimes they would have the front.
We're talking more about the good stuff that this guy did.
I'll speed through this part. And he would attach them to the top of the other dogs, the bigger dogs. So it was like
in Mars Attacks?
maybe. But so it wasn't like he would take it wasn't like he would switch dog heads. He was like, I'm gonna make a two-headed dog.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so but he wouldn't even so he could feed the dogs and they would eat them and they would go to nowhere. But then when they were attached, he wouldn't attach the throat to anything. So it was just it could respond and things. And he was like, look, I made a two-headed dog for a couple hours. And then of course they would die. And so
That's so sad.
So sad. and he would, to show off, he would have them drink water while they were attached to the other dog, and they can't. They would just to be to show that they will drink water. And so then, obviously, even if he's not attaching, one of the dogs is gonna die. Probably, so it's awful.
At least,
awful,
yes.
awful. Mm-hmm. But to bring it back around, the dogs died because of tissue rejection. By the immune system.
Immune rejected the new head.
Yeah. And then the other dog died because it had a big sore and dead dog on it. But dead dog head on me. But sorry. But because of that, he learned about immunosuppressants. And so he pioneered the use of immunosuppressants in organ transplantation. And so now we can transplant organs to other people and figure out how to do that, which is cool, but would have been cooler to figure out a different, less disgusting, horrible way.
It's okay to go a little slower sometimes, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird because they're dogs and they're not people. And maybe would we be a little less offended if it was a chicken? Yeah. Maybe. I would, yes, definitely.
Out. Yeah.
But I don't know why. Maybe it's harder to do with a chicken.
I feel with birds, they had their time already. So we can do. We can do whatever we want to a bird. Because we're dinosaurs.
I'm pretty sure that's not great logic.
That's my logic.
Birds had their time.
Next evil science.
Now it's time. Now it's our time to eat the birds, and the birds will just service humanity. 900 million of them.
It's hard to feel sympathy for a bird, though.
What?
You think? They have the dead eyes. A crow, different.
You sat on that couch and made me feel bad about hermit crabs for an hour. You can't tell me that I can't have sympathy for a bird.
I guess crabs have been around longer than birds, probably, huh?
Yeah.
Crabs have had their time.
Okay. I'm wrong. I'm big enough to admit that I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Those Soviet scientists.
Yeah.
I was pretty upset when I found out about that the first time I watched.
The video is nuts.
The video is nuts. It's very sad.
The dog, I couldn't watch it.
And there's some monkey ones too?
So the guy who did all the monkey ones was inspired by this guy and learned from him. And then I read somewhere, but I couldn't find another corroborating story somewhere. But I read somewhere that he had heard Pavlov speak, and Pavlov was like, never be deterred by anything. Just do your science. He was like, okay. So.
It's funny. There's a little note about Pavlov in mine as well.
Oh, cool.
Spreading bad ideas around, dude. Oh, well.
Yeah. So don't make two-headed dogs.
Did he not connect the throats because he couldn't, or did he just not want to take the time?
Yeah.
I think he couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, connecting the circulatory system was hard enough.
Yeah.
Thinking okay, well, this is gonna last for 2 hours. I might as well connect their stomachs together. Meh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what got me. Was
And they
that,
didn't
like,
have
he
to
obviously
breathe
didn't-
either. Like they didn't have lungs. They were just being fed by the heart
Yeah.
of the other dog, or by this machine thing.
Yeah, the machine thing until they were put on the other dog, and then they could be on the other dog.
And that's
for
just
a
really
little
weird to
bit.
think that like it's just like sitting there like this headless,
Yeah,
or just a head connected to a machine.
yeah.
That's all of our
freaky
futures.
nightmares.
Yeah.
As like like Oculus Rift, head and just machine.
Maybe just
underneath.
brain. Why even head at that point?
Well, because
Eyes and brain.
all the input sources, you know, I was like, yeah, all those good input sources up there. You might as well keep those
Nice
intact.
neat package already.
Yeah.
That's true. I guess so.
Pre-made.
What's the rest of this for?
What do I need my cheeks for? Nothing. So, in a hypothetical world where there wasn't tissue rejection, would the heads have been fine? Like they didn't need to breathe or eat, really, because
Right,
the
no.
blood had all the nutrients that
I think
they needed.
there'd be an infection problem eventually. Just like lots of exposed flesh. And also stress. I don't know.
Yeah. They're eating cheese, though.
But did they eat cheese?
Yeah, they fed them cheese.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's
If my head
the
got
cheese
cut off, I don't think I'd
episode
be
of
eating
Fully Fucking
I
Science.
gotta work in cheese to my thing. I don't know.
Everybody works in cheese. Let's see how, I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, but I think it's Ceri's turn. So work fast
Oh, okay.
on your
Figured it
cheese
out.
additions.
On my cheese
To be fair,
amendments.
Sari helped me add the cheese addition to mine.
Oh yeah, that's
because you
true.
added that.
That was the only
I'll try
fact
and
I
find a way
looked
that
up.
So they fed them something, but what was it? I bet it was cheese because dogs love cheese. They'll, even if they've had their entire body removed, a dog will still eat cheese.
Yeah, well, that was it. It was like responded to stimuli, like lights flashing in its eyes, ate cheese. Like,
Dogs are very optimistic.
yeah. Opened itself. Oh, it's so sad. So I'm going to talk about something called the Bone Wars, which I thought
Bone
was a
Wars.
great name. It sounds kind of like necromancy, like you're getting your skeletons ready, and then it's like the Bone Wars. But it's really just American paleontology in the late 1800s, in which a bunch of people were trying to be the best paleontologist and were dicks to each other as an effect. Instead of like caring about science, and they got science done, but they tried in so many ways to like sabotage each other to show that they were better at identifying ancient mammals and dinosaurs.
Which is so weird because I feel like so much of science and where like science gets in trouble is that they like share stuff. Like if you look at like HeLa cells and stuff, they're like, here you go.
Everybody, yeah.
Like, yeah.
But this was like hip science, too, wasn't it? Like the whole
was like
world
a
was
cool-
watching.
Yeah, everybody's really
Yeah.
excited about it.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Is this where the Brontosaurus came from?
Yeah, I think so.
And they're just like,
Oh,
yeah, they just had to like,
Triceratops, Stegosaurus, Brontosaurus.
The
they're like
amendment
kind
to
of
my
making stuff up.
childhood.
Yeah. They made stuff up. They like sabotaged each other. They like debated each other in person. They spied on each other.
Ooh.
like-
How did they
Very-
spy on each other?
Paleontological espionage.
So
Also fan fiction.
I would
Oh,
read
yeah.
this book.
was it secretly a love story as they were spying on each other?
It had to be.
Definitely.
I think I maybe read this book when I first came to Montana. I was like, I
Is
can
it-
learn about Montana. And there was
Oh.
like, it was not a love story, but it was like,
This was
Fictional
that,
Bone Wars.
That was, I think, a different later on one with other paleontologists.
There
more
really
modern ones.
isn't.
area.
There really
Yeah.
isn't much
Okay.
like historical fact stuff that isn't improved in my mind by thinking there were gay people back then and no one was allowed to talk about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So there was
they found
definitely
each
fucking
other.
Yep.
like
I can retell this as a love story because there were two guys that were like the main figures of it. I'll just tell it as if it was a secret love story.
And every now and then just say, and then they smooched a little bit.
They smooched a little bit. They threw some cheese at each other. And then
that's good. Yeah,
sounds
good.
It's hot.
They pretended like they were
Learned
going
to-
to catch this cheese in their mouths.
So two of the main players in this, I think there were lots of people involved, but two of the main people were Edward Drinker Cope, he didn't believe in natural selection. So he was like, kind of like a farm kid who had a lot of money, was like, I want to study fossils.
You know, a farm kid who had a lot of money. From one of those money farms.
You know, they grow on trees, harvest them.
Yeah, but sure, farmers make money.
I don't know. Yeah, he did not have formal training for any of this, and just like liked science and wanted to go into it. And then there is Othniel Charles Marsh was the other one, and he was a more meticulous collector. He was a Darwinist, like Yale educated, whatever. I think the other guy ended up being affiliated with the University of Pennsylvania, but didn't get like a degree or anything. He was just like part of the researchers. And they met in the mid 1800s, I think like the early 1860s, and they were in Berlin and they were friends and they like started finding fossils and then named fossils after each other because they were best buds. They did love each other at first. But then they realized that it was a race to discover and name new species and wanted to one-up each other.
And also they had a falling out over a love triangle that is going to be really important to the book.
Probably, yeah. There was a third guy involved in a lot of things. His name was Joseph Leidy, I think, and he was like. So these two guys were like pretty young, like fresh out of school. Joseph Leidy,
really attractive.
Yeah, really attractive, really suave.
They're digging all day.
Great hair, in the dirt.
Muscles. Really good. Without their shirts on.
Shirt.
I thought you said dinging all day.
Yeah,
digging all day.
Digging all day, digging all night.
Sunstroked. And so Joseph Leidy was this museum curator. I think he was a little older, like professor. Like he actually like curated a lot of fossils and did just some discovering himself. But he got involved in like a lot of the identification controversies of it. So they went back to America to look for fossils. And the first thing that happened was, I think Cope was excavating some pits in New Jersey. They're marl pits, which is apparently calcium carbonate, which is good for fossils. Marsh bribed the workers in those pits to say, don't let Cope see the fossils in his own excavation. Just send them to me first. So he like paid the money to do that. And then he also, during that time, so Cope didn't know that was happening and was like going off, like leaving his pits behind, going to the west to go like explore more. And that's probably when he came to Montana to look for more fossils. And Marsh also hired spies to monitor Cope's travels to the fossil beds there and like track it so that he could go and like poach his own fossil beds. Or because he was in love with him and like wanted to know where he was at all times.
Facebook, so you can just like check his Instagram,
check his location, or anything. So he's like worried about him and his dangerous journeys out west. Wanted to make sure he was nice and safe.
Just keeping tabs because not only is he interested in the fossils, but also like who's this other man in this situation.
Yeah, he's probably very jealous. But then at the same time, he does want to make more money than him, so it's a really complicated relationship.
It's complicated for sure. It sounds like a very, very good plot.
It sounds steamy as heck.
Yeah.
And there's
the tagline should be, "You just got boned."
Chuck Tingle.
That's really good.
See, it works on so many.
And so I think it sounded like Cope and Leidy had a thing where they were like, he was telling local diggers to send fossils to him and they would like work together to publish on them and identify them. But then Marsh encouraged Leidy to hide bones from Cope when they were sent to him. And there was a whole like, he said, I guess I was going to say he said, she said. It's a he said, thing about that. There was another controversy when one of the fossils that Cope sent Leidy, I think, it was called a Elasmosaurus, which is a large marine reptile from the late Cretaceous. And he arranged the vertebrae so they were backwards. So it looked like the tail was the head and the head was the tail. And so Cope was like, man, this thing has a really long tail and a really short neck, and like plunked the head at the wrong end of the fossil. And then Marsh was like, your vertebrae are backwards, my dude. It actually has a really long neck, and that makes a lot more sense anatomically. And this was after like Cope had published it and been like, look at this really weird
sabotage.
creature. Yeah, and then he was basically like, man, you fucked up your fossil arrangement. And Cope was really embarrassed. And stories say that he like tried to pull back and hide all the publications that said that he did this wrong. And Marsh was like, no, I'm going to show your mistake to the world. I'm going to tell everyone that you got this backwards. I don't know how that was inspired out of love.
This just be about dinosaurs,
Well, I think at that point,
he's jealous.
it was beyond the point of no return.
Yeah.
Too much spurning had
Heartbroken.
happened.
Oh yeah, it's over.
Yeah.
What was this other guy? What was the curator guy's deal? He was just playing both sides and having a good time, or what?
I think so. He was playing both sides. He was like trying to stay out of it a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think because like these two were like two hot-headed young paleontologists dueling, and he was just like, I'm a curator. I'm interested in paleontology, but I don't got time for this like debate. So he was just like, I think he was trying to. He was actually like trying to communicate more science, and I think eventually he like towards the mid 70s he dropped out of this and was just like, I'm done. I'm gonna go study parasites now. Because he was tired of
You two are parasites.
yeah, he was really tired of all the paleontology stuff. So after that debacle, they like both went to their respective digs some more. And I think there were two things that they were trying to do. They were trying to find more fossils than each other and then identify them as new species. And so when they were finding new fossils, they did all kinds of things to sabotage each other's digs, including throwing rocks and dirt at each other. And, like having
were they
the
close
workers-
enough?
I think sometimes they were probably close enough to throw rocks and dirt,
Go look at
like
your own
at different
thing.
sites. Or I assume, in my mind, I didn't read in close enough. Then they have like two groups of people digging with them, and they're like, "Okay, go!" And they like bring buckets of dirt over, and like dump them into someone else's excavation site to sabotage. Sometimes they destroyed bones with dynamite, like smaller artifacts. When they were like, I don't know what this is, or we might have found something like this before, but I don't want this other guy to have it, so let's just blow it up.
Oh, they destroy their own bones that they found.
Yeah, they would destroy their own bones just so like the other person couldn't get it, or so like no one else can have this knowledge or something.
Man, somebody lost sight of what's important.
Yep. They covered their excavation sites after they were done with it, so like to hide it, so no one could like continue excavating there.
Wow.
Which is
So like we still can't find them.
I don't know. I didn't look into that.
I definitely have heard stories about people being like, we just found this bone in the bottom of the Museum of Natural History, and it's like from a totally unknown thing that's really different and special. And I'm like, maybe one of these guys was like, hide it in the museum.
Probably, yeah, because they had like a bunch of bones each, and they like, in trying to define different species, they were really aggressive too. So they would like hoard their bones. They both had, I imagine, like just like giant like dragons with their piles of bones. They were just sitting on, like, there's no more dinosaurs
They're
now.
like Scrooge McDuck swimming around in a big old pile of bones.
And just like looking at it and then like seeing what they could name. And they like, even if a bone like looked like it was a species that was already identified, they would still try and like rename it something slightly different just so they could get like the most dinosaur names to their names.
Just faking dinosaurs.
Yeah. So faking dinosaurs, like trying to discredit each other's. They were like pretty rigorous scientists. So if someone identified something wrong, I think Cope, because he had less schooling, would identify things wrong and be like, this is a reptile. And then Marsh would come in and be like, no, dude, that's a mammal. And like they would duke it out in scientific literature too. And then eventually they just started attacking each other outside of scientific literature too, in like newspapers, and just like talking shit about each other.
The printed word.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, who's publishing those?
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy to think that there was a time when not that long ago, when we didn't know dinosaurs existed.
Yeah.
And suddenly people are like, dude, we're finding these giant fucking lizard things
Yeah.
in the desert.
Yeah.
And they're like, but some
terrifying.
of them are like clearly like fish lizard things in the desert.
Yeah.
What the hell is going on? I guess it must have been a pretty exciting time.
It's probably, they got too excited. They got really competitive because they wanted to find the most of these.
And they didn't have like the internet to look up more exciting things.
It's true. And
They didn't know what else was going on in the world.
Yeah, they didn't have Reddit.
Yeah, and all these people's fights probably took like so long to unfold
Totally.
because they had to write letters to each other.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
I probably
you're
have as
stupid.
many like the same like magnitude of fight that these people do in like any given afternoon.
But this is like on the books forever. You know?
Well,
So it's
except that what they should have known is that we would all have forgotten about them by now.
yeah. Except for Holy Fucking Science.
Except for Ceri.
Yeah. But basically, their feuding ended
With death.
with death eventually. Marsh apparently identified, these are the numbers I found, 80 kinds. Cope identified 56.
Ooh.
So Marsh
Oh,
won.
Winner.
Man.
He also theorized that birds descended from dinosaurs, so he was like pretty smart dude.
Which
but
one
now-
went to school? Was he the one who went
He was
to
the one
school?
who went to school, yeah. Only 32, according to Wikipedia, I did not do my good research for this. Only 32 are like actually valid now. So like they named a certain amount and then like 32 are modernly accepted as good fossils. And like they got the public really excited about it because all this dramatic stuff was going on. They were employing a lot of people at excavation sites.
Spies.
32
Spies.
total of all of their dinosaurs?
I think so.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of strikes.
And then they lost all funding and credibility, and the careers are only remembered by their fighting. And Europe was like, American paleontology is dumb because you guys just fight all the time. And then Europe was like, we're better. And that was their legacy.
We work together and no one knows our names.
And that is the end of their love story. I'm sure they died in each other's arms, regretful.
They probably
Yeah.
killed each other.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Would you say
With the bone.
that their relationship curdled? Like, please?
cheese.
I don't know. Who made that joke in the chat?
Paleontologists are like a hot-headed bunch. Why
Yeah,
is
man.
it? Because they're dinosaurs and they're cool and it's like,
I don't know. Like,
Playing
I
toys.
was hanging out with a paleontologist the other day. Not the other day, like a few months ago. And I was like, you
The
are.
other day in like
Yeah.
long history.
Yeah.
In geologic time.
Yeah.
to
It
a
was very
dinosaur, that would
recently.
just be the other day.
And yeah, I was like, you're a bit of a something.
yeah.
You're a bit of a, I don't know, a bit, just a time, maybe like dickhead. Like if I was gonna find a word,
Yeah.
yeah, it's fascinating.
Was it about paleontology or like cheese?
No, it was a little of both. It was definitely like not just the paleontology.
Yeah.
It was also a little bit like this is just.
You're not.
I'm just a
you're fun,
crotchety, curmudgeonly dude, and I'm not gonna play any games, and etc.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Seems like it's my time.
Yeah. Good job, Ceri.
Cheese eater Hank Green over here. So controversy.
Yeah.
There is a scientist who I feel like the internet beloves more than any other scientist. And I think that there's lots of good reasons to have good feelings about this guy who had maybe didn't get all the credit that he deserved during his life and was up against it's like when I was in elementary school, everybody was all about Edison. Everybody's talking about Edison, how great Edison is, making phonographs, making light bulbs, and also like making like giant company capitalist doing all the things. But it turns out that like a lot of his work was based on Nikola Tesla's work. And so everybody wants to like look out for the underdog, right? So maybe we've looked out for the underdog a little too much. Because maybe Nikola Tesla's ideas weren't 100, you know? Like there's definitely some hits, but also some misses. So some big hits, like Nikola Tesla's amazing guy, radio, alternating current, all of the many things that we base our society on today. And also, so I'm reading this essay called "A Machine to End War" by Nikola Tesla, written later in his life, and it's his idea of what life is going to look like in 100 years. And so this is like 100 years still being in the future for us. So like he's looking far into the future. And one of the things, this episode was inspired by Fritz Haber, who is a chemist who, in the course of trying to design weapons to kill with, accidentally figured out how to, like a mass scale process for fixing nitrogen from the atmosphere so that it could be used for fertilizer, a technique that was then used to save billions of lives. So like this
Suck
guy's
it, Fritz Haber.
trying to kill people real hard. Like he invented chemical weapons. He's a bad, and he also lots of bad things went wrong in Fritz Haber's life. But in this article, this essay I'm reading, which has something else I'm going to talk about. But first, Nikola Tesla says, there will be enough wheat and wheat products To feed the entire world, including the teeming millions in China and India now chronically on the verge of starvation, the earth is bountiful, and where her bounty fails, nitrogen drawn from the air will refertilize her womb. I developed a process for this in 1900. It was perfected 14 years later under the stress of war by German chemists. I was like, maybe I've had this story slightly wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know how much it was perfected in quotation marks by Fritz Haber versus like Nikola Tesla trying to claim like ownership over this invention, which is one of the great inventions of mankind as far as I'm concerned, like being able to take nitrogen out of the air and use it to fertilize crops. So that was fascinating that he's sort of like given a little bit of props to Fritz Haber right there and also kind of taking credit for his invention.
Yeah.
But what I want to talk about is in this essay in which he talks about a lot of stuff. He talks about his machine to end war, which is basically a hypothetical, theoretical death ray thing that will defend the borders of countries. And if you come within 200 miles of the country, like with a war machine, you just vaporize. And saying like, if every country has this, then there will be no war anymore because it will be mutually assured destruction. So kind of, in a way, pre-understanding what nuclear weapons might do.
Yeah.
But in a way. But so here's what he says in this essay. The year 2100 will see eugenics universally established. In past ages, the law governing the survival of the fittest roughly weeded out less desirable strains. The man's new sense of pity began to interfere with this ruthless working of nature. As a result, we continue to keep alive and to breed the unfit. The only method compatible with our notions of civilization and the race is to prevent the breeding of the unfit by sterilization and the deliberate guidance of the mating instinct. Several European countries and a number of states of the American Union sterilized the criminal and the insane. This is not sufficient. The trend of opinion among eugenists is that we must make a marriage more difficult. Certainly no one who is not a desirable parent should be permitted to produce progeny. A century from now, it will no more occur to a normal person to mate with a person eugenically unfit than to marry a habitual criminal.
What? Oh boy.
Holy shit, Nikola Tesla!
Fuck that guy!
Wow!
That's
a lot
rough
of the
stuff.
things that I found looking up for, like, I was like, evil scientists, it's all about sterilization.
Yeah.
And but I'm like, well, there's no good science that comes out of that.
Yeah.
Nikola
Did he have
Tesla was
kids?
No, Nikola Tesla did not have kids. In
You can't
fact,
have kids with a dove.
Yeah, he'll have a bird.
but I mean, I feel like Nikola Tesla probably would have been outlawed for mating by his own rules here. He's pretty, crazy
Unfit.
dude. He had a lot of problems.
Yeah, did he talk about what made someone fit?
Exactly. That's the whole thing with eugenics is it gets pretty bad pretty quick.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not the whole thing with eugenics.
But
Sorry.
that's
Also,
a pretty bad.
freedom of humans to do what humans are made to do and should be allowed. And
Jeez.
I get really sensitive when it comes to, and I feel like, of course I do. But sometimes I also feel like people are like, yeah, well, we do, it does make sense though. And I'm like, shut up, no. It does not make sense.
Yeah,
We're just destined for idiocracy if we keep letting the idiots make love.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, you so don't understand how this works.
Yeah.
The movie Idiocracy makes me really mad.
I haven't seen
And
it.
a lot of people are like, dude, it's a comedy. And I'm like, yeah, well, if there was a comedy about how you should murder people because their race is unfit to breed, it wouldn't be fucking funny.
Yeah.
And basically what we're saying is you watch the beginning of Idiocracy and it's poor people are dumb and they have lots of kids and so it's going to ruin the world. And I'm like, wow, who thought that was okay to put that in a movie? That's funny. And then to star in it, Owen Wilson. Is it Owen Wilson?
I think
Oh,
the
Mike
other one.
Judge
Luke
wrote it.
Wilson. Luke Wilson.
Yeah. Luke Wilson.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry, Owen.
Sorry,
Wilson.
Owen.
I have a story, but I don't know if it should be podcast. Maybe I'm going to tell.
Did you eugenic someone?
I did not eugenic someone. I was being poached for eugenics.
What?
You're in our
Perfect
campus
specimen?
newspaper. There was a full-page ad taken out for egg donors. You had to have like a certain race, a certain like GPA, a certain like everything, because like the school that I went to is pretty good.
Yeah.
And there was like
No, that's very nice of you to not just say.
yeah.
It's fine. You don't have. Ceri went to MIT.
I was like, maybe she doesn't want him to know the newspaper.
I don't know if we can. We're whatever. I've done my grave. So
You graduated.
I
It's
graduated. I went to MIT. In the school newspaper, there was a full-page ad published from a dude from UC Berkeley or something. His wife couldn't have kids, but he was like, I want an egg donor, but I want the best
MIT
egg donor.
grad.
So I want an MIT grad who has above a certain GPA, who is like, I think he said like Asian American or something like that, apply to be my egg donor. And so me and my friends made a fake email account and emailed him about this and like in like a serious inquiry kind of way. And he'd set up a website of his qualifications. It was basically like a CV of like facets about himself and his intelligence going back to like won the spelling bee in 4th grade.
Oh my gosh.
And like he had an entire folder of pictures on that website of like children who he had been the father of as a sperm donor and been like, look at these beautiful children, look at these like probably going to be intelligent children that I have fathered. Like, don't
How
you
do you
want
have
to be
pictures of your sperm donor children?
I don't know.
That's not allowed.
I don't know. It was very weird.
And
freaky.
maybe, I mean, I guess it's as long
This
as
person is your father and you need help.
it depends on how you do it. But if you're going through a bank, you're not supposed to know who your kids are.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe he
I
like
mean, I know
Maybe
this
he's just
because
promiscuous.
I got lots of kids out there. But
I don't know 'em.
But yeah, I don't want.
it's possible that he went through similar programs
No,
and was
just
like
to be clear, I don't.
yeah, it's possible that he like was like, I'm a smart dude, want my sperm, and then like there
Right.
were people who would want that and like sent him pictures of their babies. But it was very
Weird.
bizarre. We like had some email things and then we realized we got in too deep because he was like actually interested in like having our eggs and like trying to talk about it. And we were like, oh no, we have myopia and we have a history of heart disease in our family. And then he was like, oh, no thank you anymore. Like we just had to
Yeah,
make up
good. Yeah,
diseases
nice, yeah.
that we had.
Yeah. Oh, like everyone in my family dies at the age of 35.
Yeah, but we were like, yeah,
Which is why I really want to have kids now. Like,
Yeah.
we just
freaky.
started like making up things that would make our fictional eggs seem
Yeah.
less favorable, and then that like immediately was like, no, thank you for it.
Yeah.
But it was just such a bizarre experience because we thought it was a joke or something, but like
Yeah.
this is a thing that a real person was actually going to pay a lot of money for
I have a.
and selecting.
Weird.
I mean, I have a friend who's having a baby through a sperm bank right now, and like the process is very interesting. Like you can pay different amounts for different amounts of information. So if you like go with the base level, it's like this is a person, and you're gonna have their baby. But if you want to pay a little more, you're like know a little bit more about them, and like what are they into, and how did they do in school, where did they go to school, and like it's
So you
crazy.
can always pick the same from the same options, but
It's the same people, but you don't know as much about them at the lower levels. It's very interesting, but you have to pay to learn more. And that's weird, right?
yeah.
yeah.
Makes you. It's just. I feel like it's kind of a peace of mind thing. It's like apparently.
But then it's like
yeah.
you go down a rabbit hole because you're like, okay, he's interested in ultimate frisbee. So am I. But like, if I pay the premium level, am I going to find out he killed his ultimate frisbee coach? You know, like, where are those boxes that
Yeah.
you
You
need to
just try
check
to
in?
Well, there is a
ultimate-
certain. I think that there is a certain amount of like we don't have any murderers
Okay. At least
that we know of. Yeah.
Do you need a background check to donate sperm?
I think I think that there like yes, some places they do that.
Weird.
Weird. Eugenics.
Eugenics,
So Nikola
yeah.
Tesla got a lot going for him, but also later in his
Was that a late life essay?
that was I think it was later. Yeah, I think it was.
Maybe
later.
as a bird was whispering it to
Well,
him.
I think I think what sort of becomes clear as you read this essay is like Nikola Tesla has realized that he was right about so much that he's like I'm probably
can
right
do
about a
no
bunch of other
wrong.
stuff. So and like when people get to that point, I feel like often that's when they start to have their worst ideas.
Yeah. If he had had a Twitter, it would have been a disaster.
I mean, that's basically what it was.
Yeah. He would have got banned.
Nikola Tesla. Well, thank you everyone for hanging out with us as we destroyed your perceptions of probably one of your favorite scientists, and also let you know about a whole other bunch of scientists who sucked.
Yeah, that you never heard of.
Kind of okay.
Or I feel like these paleontologist guys, they weren't cutting dogs' heads off and trying to attach them to
your guy
other
was probably
dogs.
the worst
He was
guy.
awful.
I feel like my guy was.
Pretty bad.
He just wanted some
He was
money. I
really
think.
bad to that one guy.
He was really bad to one person, but he helped a lot of other people too.
Yeah, he lived, manservant chopping wood with steak popping out of your tummy hole.
He made him carry heavy stuff, and then there's a journal entry that he wrote that says that it's not negatively impacting him, and it's fine. It doesn't hurt him at all. It's like from the dude's perspective, he's not lifting a bunch of wood. Yeah.
He's fine. Well, this episode, of course, sponsored by Big Sky Brewery of I've had a beer already. They provided us with beer, and you can find their beer all over 36 of the 50 states. They make good stuff.
Yeah.
They do.
And thanks to them for sponsoring. Thank you to you for listening. I have been Hank Green.
I am still Ceri Riley.
I've been and will continue to be Kaylin Hofmeister.
And I'm Sam.
And this has been Holy Fucking Science.